human design is about the evolution of humanity and the tipping point that's coming in 2027 and these new beings that are emerging on the earth. And we need enough people who know about human design and know about this to support these new beings who are coming into the world, who are going to be quite different to us from 2027 on.
Good morning. Welcome to the Light Dump. Christine Spicer, founding partner of the Spiritual Leadership, coach, mentor, but the founder of Human Design New Zealand. You were the first one here with this. And you're a certified human design analyst, teacher, master facilitator, and coach. So I'm going to be really honest with everyone and say that I don't know a lot about human design. Of course, I've heard of it because I know you, but also I've actually had friends who have done it and who have sworn by it as well. So for this, I haven't found out a lot. So we're here to deep dive into it and help me and everyone else out there who knows zip about this, what it's all about. So, Christine, human design, is it a system or a therapy? What is it?
Wow, it's a good question. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to come and share about this because, of course, this is my passion. You might have noticed.
Yes.
Yeah, what is it? Is it a therapy? Is it a system? Well, it's both. It is a system foremost, and it can be therapeutic if it's applied correctly, because one of the amazing things about human design is it is an incredible body of knowledge, which can, I'm still studying it 20 years later and I still haven't touched the sides of it. However,
Right.
it's also something that can be incredibly practical and simple. And it really depends. And it's actually the practical and simple, but not necessarily easy, that creates the therapeutic outcomes of human design. And yeah, and so the challenge is always to work with the human mind, because the human mind is always likes to be complicated, likes to be fascinated, and can be very busy getting into the system itself without the practical application. And this is
Mm.
humans, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, this is humans. Yeah. And I actually find it kind of fascinating to deep dive into our design when we're also being asked right now to embark on unity consciousness and just be one of all, one of everything, at
Mm,
one with everyone and everything.
mm,
So there's
mm,
this sense of requirement to understand or fully embrace who we are individually, as a fractal of the oneness, if you like. So it's an interesting time, and I do feel for us to really understand oneness, we need to understand ourselves first, and we need to, and maybe understand it's not the word because that's very heady.
mm,
It's feel into who we are
mm,
as our true selves.
mm.
So how does human design do that for us?
Yeah, well, if we look at it from the reference point of what you just mentioned,
Hmm.
which is very helpful actually for human design, and that is we are looking for a humanity that is healthy.
Hmm.
And human design says really that if humanity is going to have a healthy aura, if you imagine humanity with an aura,
Mhm.
then what creates that aura is each person inside of that being healthy with their aura. And when healthy auras all join together, then they're creating the vibration of true self and aligned consciousness. So consciousness where you could say, okay, here I am as my individuated being with my healthy aura, and that healthy aura is contributing to the aura of a healthy world. And then that aura is then going out through the universe as the message of the consciousness of humanity, right? And so human design is a system that helps people, one person at a time, become that healthy self. And the way that it's different from a lot of other systems is it's saying your recipe for becoming that healthy aura is different to your recipe for becoming that healthy aura. And so therefore, the things that make you healthy are going to make you unhealthy, and the other person unhealthy. And so it's really a very, it's the path of self-knowledge of, it's the science of human differentiation.
Yes.
Taking us into the evolution. It's actually taking us into this next evolutionary step that we're in at the moment. And there's so much about the evolution of humanity in the world, and the cosmos in human design. And that's where, wow, there's multiple places that can be studied in the cosmology of human design. But I'm really more interested in the practicality of the application of human design, because that's how we change one aura, one life at a time. So that was a big answer. I don't know
No,
if
no,
that.
no, I get it. And that makes a lot of sense too, that of course, if we, for want of a better term, clean up our aura, and it is going to help the rest of humanity. So I get that. Okay. So it is a way of, am I right here, of bringing a deep awareness to ourselves
Mhm.
as individuals, as, if you like, compared without judgment to the next person, so that we can have awareness for them as well, in a sense. Is that correct?
Yeah, and one of the things I love about it is the more that I've worked with it, and I've been working with it for, it's been in my life for 20 years, it really builds a deep respect for other human beings. And I've always had a fascination and an interest in, because I've always worked in um, professional and personal development field. But wow, it's just given me, opened my eyes so much to the incredible beauty of each person as they are designed to be, and how different each person is, and then the respect for that difference, because there is so much conflict that happens in the world because people are always looking through their lens, wanting everyone else to fit in with that.
Mm.
Whereas what this does is it says, wow, this is my lens. Wow, that's my lens. This is who I am. And wow, look at who you are. And look at who you are. And look at you. And that's different to me.
Mm.
And then in being able to accept that difference, then we create this healthy aura, because it's all this battle of, no, this is the right way. This is the right way, that is creating all this polarization.
Yes, correct. So that's got this wonderful inclusivity kind of aspect to it. I love that. So how did human design come to be?
Mm. Yeah, well, this is a received system. So it was received in 1987 during a time of what was called the harmonic convergence, where there was a lot of planetary alignments that happened. And it was received over a period of 8 days and 8 nights by a man called Ra, and he really had it downloaded into him in what, it wasn't a beautiful spiritual experience. It was quite a even a painful experience of having it, of being penetrated with this voice that brought him the human design, but also brought him the design of mammals, plants, birds, fish, and inanimate objects. And I've probably missed something out, um, but brought the design of life in a way. And
Wow.
this that we're talking about is the human design.
Wow, that's pretty cool. He basically channeled it spontaneously in the harmonic conversions.
Yeah,
Okay. So
right.
let's sit up and listen, shall we?
Yeah, yeah.
You
And
know.
he thought he was crazy. He wasn't a spiritual person. He was into physics. He was a physics teacher. And he was a pretty unusual. He was living a very hermity life in Spain and Ibiza, and this got downloaded into him, sort of against his will, I think. Mm,
Interesting.
mm,
Interesting. So there are, for want of a better term, types or categories that we
mm,
fall into. with human design, which I sort of find is interesting too, but because we're always trying to break free of categorizing things, but
Yes.
actually, um, let's be real with the fact, sacred geometry, we are part of patterns. We're patterns. So there are a few patterns here. Am I right? There's manifestor generator, manifesting generator, projector, reflector, which you are, which is incredibly rare and makes incredible sense that you are doing this.
Mm.
So the different types are there. Maybe go into that a little bit and how we determine our design type.
Okay. So the types are aura types. So we're back to the aura. So the four aura types are all something to do with the way that your aura is designed to move and interact in the world. But inside of that, you are your unique being. So you're very different from every other. I think you're a manifesting generator type, and you're very different from every other manifesting generator. However, what you have in common with that type is that you have an aura, which is big, open, enveloping aura, which is very sensitive and really takes in everything and has one particular protection, and that protection is whether you're engaging with life and energy through response or not, or whether you're trying to initiate things. And so this aura is designed to really be a receptive aura. This is very yin, this receptive aura. And this is true for generators and manifesting generators. They're both generator types, really deeply connected with the earth and very sensitive to energy, whether their energy is connecting with something or disconnecting with something through response. Okay, so that is that aura type. So there's the generator aura type, which is generators and manifesting generators. That's around 70% of the population because that's the life force.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the projectors, who are about 22% of the population. They have a very different kind of aura. Their aura is an aura that is very focused. It will focus in on you and it will absorb whatever it focuses on. And the reason that this aura is an aura which is always scanning and focusing, it's quite intense, is that it's always reading energy. So projectors, whether they know it or not, they're kind of set up energetically to be reading energy because they are the people who are here to read the energy and guide the energy. And then there's the manifestors, and the manifestors are a pure initiating force. So they are the about 8% or 9% of the population who have a very contained energy system, and that energy system is closed and it's repelling. So it's always pushing out energy to sort of clear the way because this energy is an energy that is here to open the way, literally. And so it needs a sort of a force that pushes outwards because they're the initiators, they're proactive on the planet. Here to open up the energy and open the way for other people and get things started. Unusual aura, that is, very
Wow.
different. And then there's the reflectors, which I am. We're about 1.5% of the population, and we are here to be we're completely open. And I need to talk about the body graph at some point so people know what are we talking about open. But this is a map of energy and consciousness. So in our map of energy and consciousness, reflectors are completely open and are here to take in and reflect back the people in the world around us as mirrors, as one-way mirrors in this case, which is perfect for my work because then I get to
Perfect.
uplift, take people in, reflect them back, and uplift them to the next level, which is what we're here for, to create space inside of people.
So you're a living example of actually now knowing your human design, aligning with your human design, how that can actually create incredible flow in your life. Because that's what's happened, Christine, hasn't it? You've had this wonderful ability to flow and have things come to you
mm,
effortlessly. Yeah.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it has been amazing. I think about my life before human design arrived and then after human design arrived. And once I'd been through that quite crunchy deconditioning, initial deconditioning process, where my life sort of started to, everything that didn't belong started to leave. Um, Coming into then my flow of my design, yeah, I was amazed at how much more ease there could be in life when I had been sort of battling along, just working so hard and looking at all sorts of healing modalities and sort of always having to work really hard to be healthy. And it was just such an effort before that. So yeah, it's been a wonderful thing for me. Mm.
I hope that kind of rings a bell for people out there who are perhaps in a state of struggle to go, I wonder
Mm.
if I'm living my human design. And for anyone out there, yeah, wonder. Let's have a look at this. I mean, for me, that even just now, what talking to you makes me think, oh my gosh, I think I need to dive into this. You
Yeah.
know, and diving into it, what does that entail? I mean, how does one determine your human design?
Yeah, so it is based on your time, place, and date of birth. And that creates a map, and that map is called your body graph. And that's a bio-spiritual map. What I love about it is yes, it's about your body and your soul. So it's about what's unconscious that runs your body, your energy, the way that your biology is designed. And then it's also about your personal attributes, the way of what drives your mind consciously. And it brings together those two aspects that say, so this body and this soul, how are they here to be together in this incarnation together while we're here on earth? You know,
Mm, mm.
what are the personal instructions of what might make this work? And so it's giving you a map that it contains something like some personal instructions for you and some themes, tells you about what is embedded as your essence of who you are, that you're here to live out in the world. And it also tells you what are the specific themes of your conditioning that are going to take you away from that. And it really sets you up for an experiment because it tells you this is the way you're designed to make decisions. And when you make decisions in this way, using your body wisdom, not your mind,
Yeah.
then you start to navigate differently in life. And then the conditioning, which is in all the open centers in your design, starts to dissolve and fall away. And this is a very different process to what I'd tried before because, before human design, I tried so many different modalities, all
Mm.
sorts of things that I was into on my healing journey. And what I found is a lot of them worked. They were great, but they didn't stick. Because, of course, it was when I found human design that I realized, because I wasn't living as I was designed. So, as fast as I would offload and heal, I would, onload all my next load of conditioning, which I then would have to deal with again.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so this is the first thing that's really allowed me to have so any other modalities I'm using, of course, modalities that I've chosen through using my decision-making strategy and authority, which is what human design, that's the mechanics that human design gives you. And so because that then is correct for my body, my map, my being, well, then it really sticks. And, I've been able to heal myself from some potentially quite, difficult health challenges
Wow.
using everything that I learned. So, but you've got to apply it. The thing is, a lot of people love to hear about their human design. They get their chart, they find get their birth data, and then it's really exciting, and they get all that information about themselves, and then they say, "Well, that was really interesting," and then they go on with their lives. Well,
I go back to exactly what they were doing before. And this is and actually this calls to mind how people actually go with their when getting their chart done, say their astrological chart too, becomes a fascinating process at the time.
yeah,
And they go a few aha moments. and then go back to, and then but they go back to normal. They go back to not thinking, considering what's going on in the cosmos. Human design is different from that, in that it does have a kind of, am I right? It has a kind of processes that you can go through with someone like yourself. It was always helpful to have a mentor or a teacher help you through this, because you mentioned before it was quite crunchy at times.
It was.
Just even getting to the point where there's true awareness of who you are. Now, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the process is to, first of all, get your chart and have what we call a foundation reading. And the foundation reading gives you a big download of your design, and it gives you it gives you three key things. It gives you a lot of things, but in amongst that there's three key things. And one is your decision-making strategy, which is the way that you're designed to interact and move in the world based on your aura. Your decision-making authority, which is the place or process inside of your body that you're designed to use to make decisions, which is not your mind. Right there, a lot of people freak out. What? Not my mind? Okay. Excuse me. And then the third thing it does is it gives you the specific themes of your conditioning, so that then when you're engaging with life, you can start the experiment of your human design experiment, which is, okay, so when I'm deciding what to eat, when I'm deciding whether to go to that event, when I'm deciding, whatever it is you're deciding in your life, whether I'm going to spend some time with this person, whatever it is you're deciding. Now I start to do it using my strategy and authority. Now I start to notice what my mind does, which zooms in on my conditioning and is in a battle between my conditioning and my authority. And that's the crunchy bit, because our conditioning is everything that we have learned through education, through upbringing, that's not us, the belief systems that are not us. And our body wisdom often has a different preference. It's not really a preference, but a different outcome than what our mind might like or want. And that is very crunchy, because then you've got your conditioning and your body wisdom, your authority, in which you're going to follow. And then it's an experiment, because sometimes, of course, you're going to follow your conditioning. And other times you're going to follow your authority, and then you see what happens. And then as you do it, that takes that starts to accelerate a cellular transformation, because this is what human design offers. Human design offers a cellular transformation. So you initially, the reading goes in through your aura and talks to your cells as much as it does your mind, because you see, human design's a coded language. The language is coded to your DNA.
I love this.
It's coded to your DNA, and your DNA has certain highlights and other things that are not highlighted. And then as the language is shared with you and it goes in through your aura and talks to your cells can sort of recognize it, and there's kind of something that happens. Some people are aware of it and some people are not. And that initial transmission sort of kicks off a process, and then it's your agency with your strategy and authority that either accelerates that process or not.
You see, this is interesting. This is so fascinating. So you got me now. You totally got me now. And you've got me, because that language, what you've just said, resonates entirely with me.
Yeah.
I go, oh, great. Thankfully, yay.
Yeah.
Something that I can evolve with, actually.
Yes.
That says to me, I can evolve out of my conditioning. I'm not fixed, because this is the one thing I was going to ask you. Are we fixed in our human design? To an extent, I guess we are. However, we're not fixed as to where it can go. Is that right?
That's right. So Your design is your potential.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's your potential, and your job is to move towards your potential because we're all conditioned to be something we're not. You know, I can remember this horrible saying when I think back, you know, people used to describe, and I don't know whether that's something from the 70s or something, but people used to describe people as well-adjusted. Do
They
you
did.
remember?
Yes, they did. Well adjusted.
I look back and I realize
Mm.
that's conditioning. Oh, we've been so successful in conditioning that person. We've sort of adjusted them. Not, oh, they've really they're living out sort of the essence of who they are. It's just like we've
Mm.
slapped that a bit off and,
Yeah.
you know, we've polished that bit up and now they're so well adjusted. Well, that's conditioning. And so this is the antidote to conditioning. And one of the things that I really love about human design is it's non-moralistic. It's not saying this is good and that's bad. It's just saying, well, this is who you are.
Yeah.
And then live who you are. And as much as you can, move away from what you're not, because what you're not is going to cause suffering.
And I suspect that living who we are, we're going to choose partners and family, if you like, choose people that we're going to be with in a close relationship in a different way if we are aligned with our human
Mm.
design.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, because it's often the conditioning that chooses the partner in the first place. And so one of the things I also do is relationship readings where, you know, two people, they've already had their foundation reading, and then we put the two charts together and that creates a third thing. It creates a third map because it's actually showing the dynamics of the way those two maps and those two auras come together and where the chemistry is and where the rub is and, you know, where there is dominance and where there's compromise. And so I'm reading then the dynamics of the third thing and the way that that does affect each person. And each person, of course, in a relationship is affected differently. And that can be such a relief for a person or a couple maybe where there's been a struggle with certain things that they're trying to fix. And there are some things, of course, in those maps to be that can be worked with. You know, this is not actually the way you're designed. So when you're behaving this way, then that's not supporting you and your true self, and it's also not working for your partner. But then there's other things that just need to be accepted because they just are what they are. And no matter how hard we with our minds would wish it to be different and try to change it, that's never going to happen. And knowing which it is can be so helpful because we can just stop banging our head against. So looking at our partner in a different way and realizing, so for them, there's a purpose in that, and there is some aspect of them that needs to be lived out somewhere else with other people in other situations that isn't really to be lived out in this relationship, you know. And then there's less blame because otherwise people are saying, you're doing this to me. Somehow when I'm with you, I just can't I don't know, I just can't communicate in the same way I can with these people over here. And so then the tendency is to blame your partner, right? Whereas actually, maybe that's got nothing to do with what they're doing to you. Maybe it's just that this aspect of you is to be lived out over here, not here.
So it's very interesting when you look at family members where you
Yeah.
you're born into this. Here we are, we're all of different human design. I mean, let's dive into you growing up and being your own experiment, actually reflecting back on that as the great
Mm.
reflector that you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us a little bit
Yeah,
about
I
that.
mean that was fascinating for me when I looked at my family of birth and found that they were all generator types, and I was the only one who was a different type. You know, they each had their own unique and individual design, but I was growing up in an energy in the world of energy, in the world of, you know, really this very potent energy field and I was amplifying it. So, you know, I was then therefore the one who really didn't know how to stop and just would keep going and would just work super hard. And I shared a room with my sister, And she had a very defined mind, also very inspiring mind. And I was taking that in and amplifying it. So I was highly academic until she left home, and then something happened. And I remember thinking, what's happened? And my parents saying to my teachers, what's happened to Christine? She's really gone off the boil with her studies and everything. And when I look back, I realize, that was just her leaving with that incredible mind of hers. And suddenly I was floundering.
Wow. Wow. And so even when, so going back to your very initial description of what happened with the guy who got the initial download, he also got the design, if you like, of other animals and presumably earth and places. So that idea when you as a reflector move house or move to another space,
Mm. Mm.
you know, as we do as kids, we move. Well, most of us do
Yes.
at some point, and
Mm.
then you find yourself in a space that is different. And is it actually aligned with your human design? Maybe not.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
Where you
that.
feel at home or you don't feel at home,
Yes.
yeah,
And
yeah.
this is very true for reflectors, because place is one of the most important things for reflectors, because we're not just reflecting the people around us, we're reflecting the places around us. And when I was 11, we moved from Timaru to Whangarei.
Oh,
Just
wow, that's different.
imagine, wow.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember thinking, and there's been a few times in my life like this where I've before human design thinking, gosh, I'm just another whole person here. This is quite amazing. It's like the body snatchers, take this one out and put this one in. Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So that makes so much sense to me when people say, as I say, I'm at home, or this is just not me.
That's right. That's right. Because there are people who have, so whereas with myself, okay, and we need to take a step back. The body graph map has 9 different centers in it. And for a reflector, all of those are open. So open to the influence of the outside world, taking all that in and amplifying it. Now, most people will have between 2 and 9 of those centers defined or colored in. So your definition in your design contains kind of what's reliably you, the essence of you. And however, even if you're not a reflector, if you're any of the other types, you could still have what's called an open G center. And the G center is here in the chest. And this is the center of identity, of love and direction. And this is the center that is always amplifying, the environment and the people around us, taking on other identities and amplifying them. So any type could have an open G center. And so that means that these people that you're referring to who say, I'm just not at home here, it could well be that they have an open G center and they are experiencing a mini version of what a reflector is experiencing, because we're experiencing it through all the centers. Yeah, so every type has certain aspects of the body graph that are in common to every one of that aura type. But then within that, every person has their own very unique combination of centers that are either defined or open. And yeah, so I mean, there's so many different combinations possible.
I'm getting the feeling there's a little bit of homework that goes with this process,
Yeah.
in the sense that probably am I right? You want to journal, yeah. You start to become more aware of your own reactions
Yes.
to people, situations, and whatever. You need to write it down. You need to perhaps process it. Is that right?
Well, actually, in a way, over time, yes, you might want to do that. And over time, it can be something that is just energetically, you're starting to recognize these sort of signatures, these feelings, your own reactions to certain energy formats. And that's one of the things that I love to do to teach human design is I lead a 4-day retreat called Living Your Design, where, there we are with, usually all the types, and we're learning about human design through sensing energy and through learning about all the 9 centers and the aura types through energy experiments. And so then what we're doing is we are starting to realize, so here I am, I'm a reflector. And when I'm coming towards and in the aura of maybe a manifesting generator with a sacral authority, this is what I'm experiencing. There. Wow, that's amazing, because I've got this person in my life who has, who's a manifesting generator with sacral authority. And I always thought that this about them, I always thought that whatever we decided about that person, but actually this is an energy format. If it's a person with an emotional authority, so a very highly defined emotional center, which is here in the solar plexus, and I'm coming to meet that person, and then suddenly I'm having this emotional experience inside of me if I'm open. I've made up stories in my mind about myself or about them, and now I'm realizing, it's not my partner, it's not their fault that I'm feeling like that. This is just what's happening when I'm with a person who has this kind of definition. And so it can be very relaxing for people to suddenly have it depersonalized, to have these ways of thinking about people depersonalized. And it just then becomes fascination and respect rather than blame and complaint.
A neutrality, if you like, that enables opening, actually. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I can see that. I'm really starting to see the benefits.
Yes, and isn't it amazing that all of this comes from your time, place, and date of birth? That is and that really, when I found human design, that kind of blew my mind. I know astrology does that, of course, but this is actually giving you a map of your body and a map of your genetics. So it takes it another step further. And yeah, I love that about this, because it's all about the embodiment, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say the embodiment means how you feel. Is that right?
The embodiment is that you are, in a way, aware and activated in the energy formats of your actual design. So a lot of people have got some aspects of their energy that are not really online because they're not tapping into it. For example, it might be that their decision-making authority is the sacral, the sort of the gut response, but they've been living in their head. And so then their whole energy system, which is their life force, is pretty flat. It's really switched off. And because that feeds their energy system of their whole body, really they're a bit disconnected from their body. And then in their mind, they're confused. And if a decision comes along, they're trying to make a decision with their mind and having to think about all the different options and the pros and cons and, what effect this might have and, all the things that people agitate about.
You
Whereas,
must have seen some amazing awakenings, if you like, with
that's right,
this. Yeah.
because the body knows, and when people start to follow whatever their body knows, then all of that can drop away, and the mind then is free for what it is for, which is for entertainment and communication, really.
Right. Yay. That makes it easy.
Yeah.
I like the simplification there.
Yeah.
Um, with now a little bit stepping back, what if, as in my case, you don't know what time you were born?
Yeah. So there are different ways that you can that you can find out. Of course, you can go back to birth records, but if the birth records are not available, the other way of doing it is to have your birth time rectified. So there are I have on my website, I do have somebody who I recommend for birth time rectification, and that's a Vedic astrologer. And he's somebody actually in Canada who has been tested by people who know their birth time, who've said, please tell me my birth time, and they know their birth time, and he gets it right. So you can use a birth time rectification service. And for example, if you know a window, oh, I was born between, I think you said
I
this
feel
time.
like 3 and 4 or something like that
Yeah,
in the
so between
morning.
3 and 4 in the morning, then it costs less to get that done than if it was 24 hours.
Sure.
Um, but what he does is he gives you a questionnaire all about your life and about different dates of things happening with you, your parents, other members of your family. And then from that, he can work backwards through astrological planetary positioning and find your birth time. So that is one way of doing it. And the other way that some people have come up with is being that they couldn't find their birth records, or their birth record doesn't have anything written on it as to the time, but they've managed to get their mother's birth record, and not birth record, their mother's record of her care. And on that is the first times after the baby was born are written down the treatment that was being given the mother.
Oh.
And so then well, she got this treatment there. Obviously, I was born before then. So then it can give a little bit of an indicator. Mm.
Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Great that, and I guess it is kind of important. It's important to get to the detail in that sense for
Yeah.
one's human design to be really honed and applicable.
Yeah, so the more accurate the time, the more accurate the reading. Um, some people's designs don't change much on a particular day, and other people might have 3 or 4 different possible charts on a day. It just depends what the planets were doing on that particular day. Yeah. Mm.
Okay. So, what do we, when we're diving into this, what do we need to watch out for, be discerning about when we're choosing to get into human design and choose who we work with or how we work with it? Is there a discernment there that's required?
Yes, there is. And because of what we've discussed about this being, coded to your DNA, and that's a language that's talking to your cells in a way, it's really important that the person you're working with um, has learnt the language of human design and has learnt the analysis that goes with that, that can kind of synthesize your design and deliver it to you in its correct format. Because that's a process to learn a language. The training that I did was, it was 4 years just to get started doing readings. Um, so yes, there is an international body called the International Human Design School. There's a certified process for becoming an analyst or a human design teacher, which I am. And anyone who's been trained through that process and is certified and registered through that school is a certified professional, and they know how to do that. So you can go online and check out anyone who's working in the field by just putting in the country and typing in the name. This is the International Human Design School, and you can see whether they're registered or not. And
Mm,
I would recommend
mm,
work with somebody who's actually registered. Yeah. And then
yeah.
you're getting something that is healthy for you. Mm.
Yes, and this is refinement of the health of the emotional and body,
Mm.
emotional body and body.
Mm.
So it's really important you kind
Mm.
of get that bit right, you
Yeah.
know.
And you
Yeah.
can imagine what happens if somebody is not able to do that and is inserting the wrong language and codes into you. Then
Oh
that's another
gosh.
conditioning force, right? Then you're being conditioned by that, which is not good. Yeah.
No. Yeah. Wow. Um, there was a turn of phrase that was used that I thought was really curious. What's jumping off the roof?
Oh, they're coming off the roof. Yes, yes,
Coming
yes.
off the roof. Of course, I add a little spring into the step of it.
Well, some people jump, yeah. Some people fall, some people fly off the roof, yeah. Fair enough, yeah. So this is related to the life phases. And some people, and there is another aspect of human design that we haven't talked about, which is called profile. This is sort of like your kind of your modus operandi in life that goes with your strategy and authority and your type and your aura and your definition. And so some people within that profiling system have this number 6 in their design, like I'm a 6 too, so I have it in my design. And there are people who are 4 6s, for example. And if you have that, then you have a certain life trajectory which has 3 phases in it, and the final phase is called off the roof, and that is when life at around 50 pushes you back into life, away from this sort of more aloof version of yourself where you've been kind of gathering all your resources and you've been watching how life works and you've been gathering your wisdom. But life actually pushes you at that point around 50 back into life to say, what have you learned? Have you healed your wounds? And can you bring your healed wounds into the world as, in a way, in service of bringing your wisdom into the world? And if you can, then this is your greatest flowering. It's your greatest contribution. Your life starts at 50. And so that's really what happened with me. I definitely got pushed off. But when I came off the roof, I flew because I'd been deconditioning for 7 years before that point. A lot of people come to that point, which is actually called the Chiron return. You might know it through astrology. Yeah, but a lot of people come to that without having deconditioned at all. And then that off the roof is a very vulnerable stage because that is when life can literally fall apart, because it's the internal pressure of all the conditioning sort of comes home to roost at that point. So it can be a big turning point of vulnerability or incredible contribution actually for these beings. But in a way, that is a model for the evolution of human beings that is coming, because we as in our evolution of as human beings have come to the stage where our life phase is much longer. It's now more like 84 years, not like 30 something years as it was way back when. And so our phases of life are different. And that final phase is all about, are you in full integrity as a role model of yourself? Can you truly be yourself? Can you be authentic? And of course, we're back to the beginning of the conversation, which is each person who is authentic then brings a healthy aura to the aura of humanity, and then humanity gets tipped into an evolution, which is a more healthy evolution.
And let's hope let's just put our energy into that happening. So if one gets to around that mark, that age, and that's the first time for them to dive into human design, is that okay? Do not miss the boat anytime?
No, absolutely. That can be a lifesaver for people, literally. Actually coming to it at that point, because a lot of people come to human design at that stage. And this can be something that can really, if somebody's really into their experiment, it can be a life changer at that point. Yeah.
A positive one, I'm sure. And what about with children? Can the program work with children? Do you work with children?
Yes, well, it is for children, actually. One of the reasons that human design is here is it is ideally that we bring children up, nurturing them in their design as they're designed to be, so they're not getting all this conditioning and having to do all this deconditioning that we're all,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I do is often I work with parents, because parents are, well, how do I best nurture this being that I have in my life to be as they are? And so then I do parenting readings for them. So I'm not delivering the reading to the child. I'm doing that for the parent to help them look at their parenting of the child and also their effect on the child, so that they know the differences, and that there might be a lens they're looking through, which is maybe wishful thinking about how they want this child to be. But if that child is really designed in a very different way, it's very helpful for them to know that. Or if they're very similar, it's really helpful for them to know that, to know, yes, these impulses in you are also very helpful for this child. Yeah, so it's really for the children, and it's for the children that are coming, because human design is about the evolution of humanity and the tipping point that's coming in 2027, and these new beings that are emerging on the earth. And we need enough people who know about human design and know about this to support these new beings who are coming into the world, who are going to be quite different to us from 2027 on. So
wow, so is this the prediction? 2027 is a tipping point? Tell us a bit about it. Come on, I love this. Tell us about this. Yeah.
yeah. So you might have noticed that everything's falling apart around us. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is part of this process that has been going on, which is 2027 already in full flight. The whole everything changing, all systems, traditional ways of being, global systems actually all falling apart. And this is what has been predicted through human design. And so, of course, that's because we need a way of being that is where each person is sovereign in themselves. And that's really what's coming, is that this falling apart world is forcing people to become more sovereign in themselves, to say, gosh, we're living in this post-truth world. It's so hard to know what is true outside of us. And so really, if I go inside of me into my own authority, then I can navigate through all of this chaos that is here. And so that is predicted to be the tipping point. That tipping point is the tipping point away from the background frequency of fear and into the frequency of innocence. And it will be so fascinating to see when that tip happens, what is noticed, and whether it is, these things can take a few years to sort of come into fruition, but it'll be so interesting to see whether we really notice that right at that point at the beginning of 2027, because we've never, as humanity, has never experienced this back change in the background frequency. We've been in this background frequency of fear since the 1960s. And it was actually something else before that wasn't innocence. And so innocence will be very, a whole different frequency and feeling. And then it's predicted that some of the children, not all of the children who are then born, will be telepathic and non-verbal. So autism is the beginning of it, right? Autism that is on the rise is it's not the full mutation of the next version of past Homo sapien. It is almost the next version past Homo sapien, these autistic people, because a lot of these autistic people, of course, have these amazing capacities which are to do with being nonverbal often, or other capacities that they're tapped into, which make it very difficult for them to be in their bodies. And these children who are born, they're called rave children, and they will be very different from us, no longer Homo sapien.
Oh, this is so exciting. I think everyone's going to just love to dive into this and explore it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I suggest that if anyone's interested in sort of to hear more about what's already being revealed about, autistic people,
Yes.
to listen to the Telepathy tapes, which is a podcast. And that podcast really dives into these capacities that autistic people have, which are really coming out in a big disclosure at the moment. And that will give you a feel for what the rave children will be like, because they'll be the next mutation beyond that. Um, yeah, so
Oh, that's
yeah.
great. Well, let's put that in. I'm going to do a list of contacts for you. Let's put that in there so people can access that. I certainly want to access
Oh,
that
you would
and have
love
a
it
listen.
actually, Susie.
Yeah,
I mean, you really
yeah,
love it. Yeah.
yeah. This is particularly after all the work, all the filming I've done with around autism
Yes, yes.
is, like, yes, it's fantastic. Thank you so much, Christine, for demystifying it and turning human design into a fascinating subject and process that I think I need to dive into, and I think probably a lot of us do, and you're living proof of it. And is there anything you'd like to leave us with as far as sage advice at all?
Well, I think one of the most important things when you first see your chart is to know that whatever the aura type is, whether you belong to an aura type which is a larger percent of the population or a smaller percentage of the population, your design is absolutely unique to you. There is no one else like you. And in that design are the keys to a life that is healthier and more aligned with the way you were actually designed. And so to really know that that is a sacred thing and tapping into it is a real adventure, a real exploration.
Right.
And it brings you face to face with your conditioning. So it can be a crunchy process and it is a valuable process. It's one that, in a way, I feel like it's sort of saved my life. I feel better now than I did when I found human design when I was, in my early 40s. So it's something that has been such an amazing thing for me in my life. So, of course, I love it. That's why I recommend it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Christine. Excellent. I hope people are going to love this. I really do. Thank you so, so much. As I say, we'll put all the details of where to contact you and find you. And let's explore. Let's explore.
Yeah. Love to
Okay.
do that.